How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious. Welcome back to the channel. And as you can see right here on my screen, we have a very spicy banner coming this weekend on Friday, October the 10th. And I really think this is going to be a crazy, tricky banner for a lot of people to approach. I will say for younger accounts, it is pretty dang close to a no-brainer. I mean, these are just two extremely strong units for a lot of content in the game, particularly boss content. Also, if you don't recognize the avatars, we've got Hex coming on Raid Up for like the 7th time ever. They love to run Hex banners. And then we've got Twyla coming for maybe the 3rd or 4th. And it actually is an entire rerun of this Halloween timed, or Halloween adjacent, I guess it's a little bit before Halloween now, but this October banner from last year. That was the release of Twyla, and they released her with Hex on the same banner. And it's pretty exciting because they introduced a new bond skill for Hex since she became his bond partner when she entered the game. And obviously she receives a bond skill from Hex as well. So these are two very, very interesting units. The day before, so on Thursday, I will do a full should you summon, but I already wanted to get people thinking about this banner because like I said, I'm defining this as crazy tricky. Now, why is that? Well,
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
if you're not a really early account and you just need good units, if that is you, go for the banner. There's the answer to your should you summon. Should you do it? Yes. But for everyone else, it's like, these are awesome units, especially Hex, but they're units that are kind of getting elbowed out of certain things in the game. So it depends upon the depth to which you're looking in the future. How deep are you looking? Because someone like Twyla, like I think people forget about Twyla right now. Honestly, I barely use her on my account and she's A5 and she's stupid strong. We're actually not on my account right now, but what I want to point out is it's not because she's not awesome. She is, but they power crept her immediately and they continue to power creep. And for those reasons, it's hard to jump on these old past meta units because a lot of people have been complaining lately that they're releasing units too quickly. They are releasing units at the identical rate they have for about a year and a half, a year and 8 months. Nearly the vast majority of the life of this game, units have been released at this clip, whatever it is, 3 to 5 a month. However, the rate at which they're releasing power creep units has definitely increased. A lot of the units that power crept Twyla happened pretty soon after her as well, right? So if we look here on Nightmare 4, if we look on Abyss, you're just not going to see Twyla anywhere, which is a little shocking if you think about it, because Twyla is a definitive, I don't know what it is, top 5 DPS, physical DPS unit for these fights, as let's say DPS melee unit. So we're adding more qualifiers, but she's top tier for that. But she's not the tippy top tier, and the tippy top tier is so definitively better that you don't really see, at least any higher level, you'll never see anyone settle for less. So, I mean, unfortunately, we can't go past 100 here, but if you look, you know, even down here, they're not even running Nightmare comps. Here we get a Nightmare comp, but it's still the same story. It's Morden, it's Kagiri with multiple awakenings, it's Sun Wukong with multiple awakenings. So a unit like Twyla is really tricky because she's undeniably good. You can do extremely well in Abyss, though not top tier with her. She's phenomenally good in Nightmare 4. She's excellent in Apocalypse. She's completely insane, can easily be your top DPS on your first ever 120k run. You can use her on a 400k run. I mean, she's so powerful. That all being said, they're like a clear, direct comparison 4+ units that are better than her. Kagiri, A3 higher, is just straight up better than her. A3 Wukong, straight up better than her. Morden, straight up better than her. All these units, it really is plain as day. And there's not so much conversation to be had because of that. And you saw all 3 of those units I just named are guaranteed limited units. However, if you've missed any of those guys, Twyla could be a really, really huge pickup for your account. So I guess I'm pouring one out for my girl Twyla because it's just like, this should be an always hype banner. I mean, one of the absolute best platform magic DPS in the game, platform single target, and one of the absolute best melee. But because she's not the absolute best, and there are these just like clear one-to-one comparisons with these Nightmare units that are better, I mean, what are we really to do, right? How can we get that excited about this banner? If you don't have her and you don't summon that much and you get lucky and you hit her, you should be absolutely thrilled. But to go out of your way to seek her out when there's so many rumors about Sun Wukong coming, when we're overdue for Kagiri, it puts us all in a tight spot. To take it one step further, outside of Abyss, right, there's not so many things where you strictly need one type of damage or the other. So if you think of APOC, where she's so insanely dominant, or she was on her original release, she shred so much defense. Defense is so high there. She's so strong. And when she was originally released, it was right around the time Kagiri was released, so people didn't have him with multiple awakenings. She just dominated. But now people have their Sun Wukong, who came out. People have their Kagiri with multiple awakenings. And very importantly, when we get away from type damage, so magic versus physical versus piercing, whatever, someone like Numera, who was released several months later, she was released this year, but soon enough after, is just better. She's just better. She's kind of like the magic Twyla in a lot of ways, with more utility and better raw damage. There's just enough options out there now that, like I said, if you can get Twilight and you don't have the other options, that is insanely good and you should be insanely excited. But should you be seeking her out when all these other options exist and can be coming on rate up? I think probably no. I feel like this is pushing into a should you summon. This is just supposed to be getting the conversation going and putting some things in your head that you have to think about and stew on as you, of course, make these evaluations for your own account. But I did want to kind of rant about Twilight because she was one of my favorite characters on release. I still really like her, but unfortunately, I feel like she's become unusable is not even close to the word, but I will say on a fully rostered account or a well-developed account with a rich roster of heroes to choose from, I feel like she's been muscled out. Another thing I want to say about Twyla, now this officially, I guess, is half a should you summon video. I'll still do the video the day before because I know people like that. She has single tile range, and single tile range for a melee unit in this game, I guess in theory anyone, but a platform unit could never have single tile range. But single tile range in this game is kind of a death sentence for the vast majority of non-boss content. It's just not a functional thing, especially for a melee unit where you don't really want them to be blocking if they're a DPS in most situations. Certainly with Twyla, you don't want that. Because they did this to her and they didn't give her 2-tile range or 3-tile range or a big line of range, they didn't give her any semblance of AoE, they didn't give her any width to her range. It's just the one tile in front of her. This is just saying she is strictly a boss DPS, which right on her release was super relevant and good. But immediately she's been passed by all those other options. And here's the big elephant in the room. And then I promise we'll move on to Hex very briefly to wrap up the video. Every other option I named that is strictly better than her right now has not that range. They all have superior range. So if we go to these Nightmare Watchguard guys, Kagiri obviously has the one tile, but when he does his big slashes and stuff, he has vortex range. It's insane. Sun Wukong has a base 2-tile range. And when he ults, he has this kind of shrunken, smushed down vortex range, which is so phenomenal. And then our girl Numera takes it to an even stronger level with this base range at full promotion. It's that full Arrogance, Zila 2, whatever range, or Raka range. Completely awesome. And then our boy Moradin, sorry, just to keep going down the laundry list, let's go back over here. Yes, he's a tactician, but functionally, especially Moradin compared to a lot of tacticians, or really compared to Vlara, he really is just like a mobile fighter. He's just a better version of a fighter. He's got that base 2-tile range, and the boy's moving around everywhere. So she's power crept in terms of DPS by these guys. She's power crept in terms of utility, because all these other units bring more utility, especially a unit like Numera or Moradin. And she's then, they exceed her as well in terms of their range. So she's designed as strictly a boss DPS who is very high tier, but is not tippy top tier because of all these things that have come since her release. I guess this is a Twyla rant. Let's very briefly talk about Hex. I'll go a lot deeper on Hex in the Should You Summon video. Hex is still awesome. I'd say the one thing to note with Hex is for specifically Abyss 1, he can get you 60k. He's extremely strong. I would say he's just off meta. And actually, that's going to inspire me to go on a very, very short rant. So buckle up for 25 seconds. I'm going to check the clock. All right, 25 seconds. People don't know what meta means. Meta means most effective team available. For something to be meta for that piece of content, they have to be part of that most effective team. You can be a very strong off-meta option, which is something you hear me say a lot when you are a very good unit, a nearly meta unit, but you're not on that most effective team, or the entire team comp is missing key pieces that would make it the true meta team. So you could hear someone being not meta doesn't mean they're bad. They can just be a very, very strong off-meta option. So that would be Hex right now, end of rant, for Abyss 1, right? Can you get him can he succeed in an Infernal comp for you and get you 60k? Absolutely. In the most meta version of the Infernal comp, is he there? No. You're running like a Soul Cadence Setrum Phineas, Hex is probably getting left at home in favor of other DPS, probably from the other side of your team comp. So your Nightmare, your Watchguard, whatever on the other side, right? Doesn't mean he's not fantastic. I will say for everything else, he's at least meta or borderline meta. When I say borderline meta, it's content where there are so many highly top tier effective teams. The most effective is less relevant. Something like Abyss is a lot tighter and more min-max, so being meta is more essential, especially in PvP. Being the meta comp is very essential. But for something like APOC 2, is Hex going to be on the absolute top team? I mean, we can go take a peek. I haven't checked the standings, the world standings in APOC 2 forever. I'm going to guess probably not, but that doesn't mean he can't, in his sleep, literally in his sleep, get you. He's on the #1 team, not the #2 team, so he's basically there. He could probably solo DPS 120k at this point. Slight exaggeration maybe, but the game has passed Apocalypse 2 by, and that's why we're probably going to get a new Titanic Ruins boss next week or the week after. I know I've talked in a couple different directions, but I just had a lot of thoughts, which I'm just throwing at you right now as we have. Maybe it's like a little more podcast style. We're just chatting Wanted Realms. I just think this is a very tricky banner. Hex is completely dominant. He's still very good. The final thing I do want to say on him, and we'll dive deeper onto this in a couple days, is he is a very high investment unit. To be at truly excellent potential, he needs a 3, though it's not required. And to be at very high potential, he needs his exclusive artifact, even at base promo. Without that, he functionally is a different unit, a very strong unit, but certainly not a meta unit. So for him to approach meta and all these different pieces of content, he's going to need that exclusive. And for you to truly feel the power of Hex, you're going to need that A3. So he's like someone you're going to want to chip away and collect resources for and invest in over time. But for a lot of people, it might not look like what you see in the videos if you're missing those pieces, for sure, if you don't have the exclusive artifact. So when we've got a unit like this who's still very dominant, though we're getting more and more ways to succeed in other content without him. And then we have another unit who can help you beat stuff, but is now replaced in all content as a top choice unit. It's a funky banner. 2 of the stronger units in Watcher of Realms, but 2 units who no longer would receive super top marks. Hex would still get very high marks. However, you know, there was a point where he would have been like triple S potentially in my rankings, probably was just missing it. I am recalibrating all those tiers. That should be happening next week. That is the plan for people who made it to the end of the video. There's a little tip for you. My plan is next week when I get back from New York, sitting down, making a video every day, updating all the tier lists with the new grading conventions. But even with the old grading conventions, he probably wouldn't even be double S now, which we never even ended up introducing. But he wouldn't even be a top 10 non-lord in the game. He'd be somewhere in that like 11 to 18 range, which is saying a lot. Still awesome, but people have passed him by. He's slid a little bit. Different content, different solutions to content, and then new heroes that have come in. He's just not as insanely desirable and elite as he used to be, even though he's still fantastic. And then Twyla, I mean, like no shot, right? Definitively not a top 20 non-lord in the game. Probably not top 25. We'll see when I do the grading. Maybe not top 30. Doesn't mean she's not really strong and can't help you beat a lot of things, but it's interesting, right? When go watch my video when this banner was announced, like about exactly this time in 2024. This was like break the bank, oh my God. And it was true at the time because there are so many things we have now that we didn't have then. Because we have those things and because the new content's here and the new solutions are here and the power creep has been so immense, particularly recently, I mean, this banner just can't be the hype it used to be, though it is pretty hype. Tune in on Thursday for a really thoughtful breakdown where we actually talk about skills and more specific ideas going content by content. But this is something I just wanted to start the week with. You guys know I kind of like the more informal, casual podcasty things to start the week. Historically, I'd be like breaking down the Awakening shop, talking about promo codes that might be available, talking about news. Today, it just had to be this because Twyla was on my mind, and then we fit Hex into there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. If you made it to the end of this video, please be a nice guy, be a nice lady, be a nice person, subscribe to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 50,000 subscribers. That would be so cool. Share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.